We are now in the week 2 of our course. So, in week 2, we will discuss about your circuit elements and your resistance. So, first, I would like to talk to you about your circuit elements. There are two main categories of your circuit element. We have our passive and our active. Active and our passive. When you say active elements, it is the most important device or element that is present in our circuit. Without this element, hindi gagana yung circuit natin because it gives the energy that is needed in order for the circuit to function. So actually, your active elements can be classified into two, your independent and your dependent source. When you talk about your independent source, these are the sources that do not need other elements in order to give or provide power. Actually, your independent source, they are the source of the whole circuit. They are one of the source of the whole circuit. Without them, or without one of them, maybe the circuit will be dysfunctional. Actually, your independent source has two variants. You have your independent time invariant voltage source, wherein it is not dependent with time. Actually, this is constant. So, pag napapansin nyo, this is also the symbol for cells. Okay? But, you may write it as simple as positive, negative. Okay? And then, next is your independent or time variant voltage source. This type of voltage source is what you call a voltage source that change with time. Actually, this example is for your AC voltage source. So, pwede natin siyang ilagay na ganyan. Positive, negative. Okay? And then, we have our independent time invariant current source. This type of current source does not dependent with time. Therefore, it is also a DC source. Okay? Next is independent time invariant current source. This is an AC source because it is independent with time. So, pag constant yung current, yung magnitude ng current at voltage, ibig sabihin nun, that is a DC current or DC voltage. Okay? Next is our dependent sources. So, when you talk about dependent sources, these are the types of currents that is dependent with other elements. So, it may be or it may need the voltage of a passive element. Pag sinabi natin passive, yan yung mga inductor, yan yung mga resistor. In order to operate, it needs the voltage of that, wherein that voltage will be used in order to supply or to add to the supply. Ito yung independent sources natin. Itong dependent source kasi natin, nagva-vary siya with your passive element. So, example natin is that if you have VO there, let's say VO yan, meron ka ngayong, sabihin natin active element dito. So, susulatan ko siya. So, active element. Yan. Let's say we have, this is your dependent voltage source. Pag sinabi nating voltage dependent source yan, is that it is a voltage dependent voltage source, which means voltage source which is voltage source pero dependent sa voltage source ng isang passive element. So let's say we have a circuit, simple circuit, positive, negative yan. Sabihin natin, ito yung resistor mo. Okay? Let's say this will be your VO, kung saan dependent itong diamond shape na to. So, always remember that your diamond means it is a dependent. Okay? Let's say this is VO. Sabi natin VO times 0.5. And then this will complete your circuit. We have your R1, R2, and R3. Okay? This circuit means that your dependent or voltage dependent voltage source is dependent with the voltage of this element. Pag iba yung voltage ng element na yan, ibig sabihin, nag-vary din tong VO mo. Okay? It is dependent with your VO. That is your resistor. That is your dependent voltage source. Voltage control, which means that your voltage of R1 controls the voltage of your voltage source in this part, in this branch. Okay? So that means that whatever input that you are giving to your R1, yun yung magiging input niya dito sa voltage na to multiplied by 0.5. That is a voltage controlled voltage source. Okay. When you talk about a current controlled voltage source, is that your voltage source is controlled by a current passing through a passive element. So let's say you have a source and then you have a resistor R1 and then our current controlled voltage source. So this is positive, negative. Okay? So pag sinabi natin current controlled siya, is that the value of your V is dependent with the current IO, let's say multiplied by a value of 2 IO. So if I say that IO is here, ibig sabihin kung ano yung kuryente na dumadaloy dito sa branch na to, it is the value of IO that you should remember in order to get the value of this IO, of this voltage. Because V is equal to 2 IO. That is the meaning of your voltage controlled or current controlled voltage source, which means that the current in this branch is controlled by your the current in this branch is controlling the voltage of your VO. Okay? VO is equal to IO multiplied by 2. So, from the name itself, a current controlled, kinokontrol siya ng current, kahit saan yung current ko actually, and then your voltage source, current controlled voltage source. So, diamond siya, voltage source, but is controlled by current, as let's say IO. Okay? Current controlled IO, current controlled voltage source. So whatever value of your current will control the value of your VO or your voltage controlled current source. Next is your voltage controlled current source. Pag sinabi nating voltage controlled current source is that it is a current source. Okay? Your current source is indicated by an arrow, right? So, pag voltage naman, it is indicated by positive, negative, which means the polarity of the source, okay? So, arrow siya, but take note that it is dependent, naka-diamond dyan. Okay? So, since it is a voltage-controlled current source, so therefore, it is dependent to a voltage, VO. IO, or your I here, is equal to, let's say, 0.5 VO. The value of VO multiplied by 0.5 is the value of the current entering or outgoing the node. So, let's say, this will be your node 1. So, sabihin natin may current yan. Tapos, meron tayong R dito. And then, meron tayong voltage. Positive, negative voltage, and then your resistance. Okay? Your voltage, let's say 5 VO, 5 volts. So, pag current voltage control siya, maglalagay tayo ng VO dito. Sa kahit anong passive element. So, para makuha mo yung value ng VO dito, is that first you must solve for the value of VO of your R, which you have indicated a while ago. Okay? So, positive, negative. Big sabihin ng current voltage control current source is that your current or the value of this current is dependent to a value of the voltage of a passive element. Okay? Next is a current-controlled current source. Pag current-controlled current source siya, is that, mapapansin mo na diamond, di ba? Diamond, and then you have your current. Your I.O. indicate that it is a current-controlled, which means that, let's say you have a circuit element. So, positive, circuit. So, positive, negative, your R1, and then let's say you have your I.O., I.O., and then another resistance or another element. So, if you have R2 and R3, okay? So, if you want to get the value of I.O. here, let's say that your I.O. is dependent to this element. So, anong gagawin mo din para makuha mo yung value ng current I.O. dito? So, kukunin mo muna yung current dito. Okay? Current I.O. natin. And then later on, that current I.O. will be equal to the current I.O. of that dependent current source. Okay? So let's have a recap. When you are talking about your sources, we have what you call your independent and dependent. These are called your active elements. Active means they are supplying power, energy, current, voltage to the circuit. When you are talking about independent, they are the one who can stand alone. Okay? They are the one who do not need other elements in order to produce or help in the circuit. Next is your dependent active source. Your dependent active source are the one who needs elements. They are the controllable source. They can be controlled by varying the voltage, the current, or the current of which they are variable. So as I have said, when you are talking about a voltage controlled voltage source, is that it is variable with a voltage with another passive element. Okay? When you are talking about a current controlled voltage source, is that your voltage source is variable with the current of the other element affecting the circuit. Next, when you are talking about a voltage controlled current source, is that you are solving for a circuit, or you are talking about a dependent active source that is a current source which is dependent on a voltage. Next is a current controlled current source is a current source wherein you need to get the value of the current of a passive element where it was related or it was variable of in order to help or in order to produce a current variable with the resistor. Okay? Okay. Guys, since we are through with our active elements, we will now go through our passive elements. So your passive elements are the elements that absorb power coming from the source of the load. So there are three major types of our passive elements. We have our resistor, capacitor, and inductor. So each element will be discussed as we go on with our topic in circuits 1. But in our prelim and midterm, we will focus on resistors. So a resistor is a primary type of physical component that is used in electronic circuit. So it has two interchangeable LEDs. When I say interchangeable, kaya natin ina-assume that laging positive yung pumapasok, is that yung resistor mo lagi siyang nag-absorb ng power. Take note, it will never store any current or energy or voltage. The one that would store current and voltage that would turn them into energy are your inductors and your capacitors. So, this resistor is the basic element that we would study in circuits 1. But all of our laws that is applicable to our resistors can be integrated to our capacitors and coils by making them what you call a reactance. But, so since this is basic electrical engineering in circuits 1 in DC, so we will focus ourselves in resistors. Always remember that your resistor will never uh, your resistor will never store energy. Okay? Always absorb yan. Therefore, pag kahit pumasok or kahit saan papasok at kahit saan papasok or lalabas yung loop nyo later on is that always remember na pag walang voltage na nasa resistor nyo, always remember that it is entering in the positive side of the resistor. Because take note of the word interchangeable. Okay? So capacitors, coils, inductors will be more discussed as we go on with our topic. So there are three major classification of materials that varies its opposition to the flow of electricity. Meron tayong metal, semiconductor, at insulator. Okay? These are the materials that we are using in electrical engineering, especially in wires and in our PCs. Pag semiconductor yan yung mga ginagamit natin sa computers natin, sa cellphones natin, sa laptops natin. And pag conductor yan and insulator, probably they are the one which is used in the transmission of our energy. Pag sinabi nating metal, yan yung conductor sa loob ng isang wire. Pag sinabi nating insulator, siya yung punoprotekta sa isang wire. But take note, hindi lang punoprotekta ang trabaho ng isang insulator. So, example natin is itong mga suspensions natin. Sa figure 3, focus on figure 3, on picture number 3. Yung mga nakikita nyo mga disc dyan. Okay? Mga insulator yan sa transmission line at distribution line. Okay? Pag may nakikita kayong ganyan, yung mga tagahawak ng linya, those are insulators. Your insulators can be glass, ceramics. Yan yung mga karaniwang ginagamit namin sa electrical engineering. Wherein, those are the one who holds them in place on the line. Okay? Insulator yan. Kasi, alangan naman na, yung line mo, pag nakakita ka ng isang tower, is that isasabit mo. No, guys. Because your line is a metal, therefore it is also a conductor. In order for it to hold the line, you must have an insulator that is connected on the tower and then connected to the line. Okay? So, sir, nagko-conduct pa ba ang insulator mo? Yes. Meron tayong mga leakage current na nagbre-breakdown sa mga insulators mo. Kaya, dapat, pag gumagamit ka ng insulator sa isang linya, meron ding dapat computation yan. Okay? Next. Okay. We are now in our laws of resistance. Our resistance varies on, sabi natin, 4 major factor. Number 1, we have our length, and then the area of the conductor. Take note of the cross-sectional area. Pag sinabi natin cross-sectional area, ito yung area niya sa taas at sa baba. Okay? When you talk about cross-sectional area, so, susulat natin siya. Okay? Screen right. So, when you talk about cross-sectional area is that when I have a figure, let's say, this is a cylinder. Pag sinabi natin cross-sectional area is that ito yon. This is the cross-sectional area. The area at the top and area at the bottom. Pag sinabi natin area of the faces, ito to. Surface area. Take note that the surface area is the area of this hole. Yung top and the bottom mo at yung sides. And then pag lateral area is yung area lang ng sides. Okay? Yan ang lateral. Pag surface, i-add mo yung lateral plus yung cross-sectional. Pag cross-sectional area is the area, ito, this is your cross-sectional area. Cross-section. Cross-sectional. So that will be our area to be considered. Okay? So we are relating our loss of resistance into rho is equal to P multiplied by R is equal to rho multiplied by L over A. Okay? Your R is proportional to L and it is inversely proportional to 1 over area. So therefore, I may say that it is proportional to L over A. Right? But take note that when you are using your proportionality sign para gawin yung equal is that kailangan mo ng constant. And that constant will make this equation equal to R is equal to K multiplied by L multiplied by A. But this constant can be related into your rho. Rho L over A. Alright? Next is that this will be your equation 1. But always remember that in a cylinder or in a given volume of a conductor which has your area and your length. Okay? Always remember that this volume, this area, and length can be rewritable into a volume, right? Wherein the volume of this figure of a cylinder is equal to, or any closed surfaces, or any regular solid is equal to area multiplied by length, or area of the base multiplied by height. But what is volume? It is just equal to area of the base multiplied by L. You know that your A is your cross-sectional area and your L is equal to length. Therefore, it is safe to say that I may vary your, or I may manipulate your equation that A is equal to V over L and L is equal to V over A. Right? Relating these factors into an equation, so therefore, I may say that since R is equal to rho L over A, so I may say that L is equal to this equation, so therefore rho multiplied by V over A as your length all over A, which is equal to rho multiplied by V all over A squared. That is my R relating to my L is equal to V over A. And it is also equal to rho multiplied by L over A, wherein your A is equal to, let's say your A is equal to gamit tayo ng block. Your A is equal to V over L. Okay? If your A is equal to V over L, I may say that P is equal to rho all over L all over V over L, which is equal to rho multiplied by L squared all over V. Okay? This will be our formulas that can be used in solving the problem. So later on, you will see the importance of these formulas, because they are a problem wherein you need to take note of the different meaning of words that would be used in the problem. rho multiplied by L squared all over V. Okay? This is the formula of your resistance. Okay? Okay. Since you are already in resistance, it is also helpful to know the resistivity of a material. So take note that the resistivity is the identification of what material is used. So there are three major classification of a material. We have our conductor, semiconductor, and also our insulator. So in this case, since the resistivity is too low, so therefore it is a conductor. Take note that the definition of resistivity is that it is the resistance per unit length in a cross-sectional area. So it is the property of the material that opposes the flow of electric charge or the flow of electric current. Since this is a low or this is a conductor, we expect a very low resistivity.